Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Strange old country, isn't it? The sun's out and it's raining. Mind you, they are a little bit apart, aren't they? This is just to say that everything to do with getting Jeff's plants sorted out is now done from my point of view. I've got no further involvement. However, I have agreed with Marius that when he gets everything set up, and he's finished documenting everything that he needs to do with the dendrobium collection, I will be able to go and film. That could be some time away though, simply because of the various restrictions. It depends. If the place where they're growing has got an outside door so that I don't have to go in the house, then we may be okay. But it's a way off yet for that sort of thing to be going on. I also plan on filming other people's grow spaces once we get to a position where the people themselves feel safe to do it. Because if the people don't feel safe, I'm not even attempting to ask. So we've got to get to that stage first. Couple of developments overnight. The Laelia anceps is separating its buds. We've only got 2 on each spike this year. So be it. I'm sure I had 3 or 4 last year. But the good thing this year, it does look like they will both be out together. So that sort of compensates, because I think they were staggered last year. Did we get 2 spikes last year? I think we did. Anyway, so we've got that to come soon. The Genmanii, although it's looking good, the weight of the blooms actually kinked the spike. So I literally had to strap it as soon as I spotted it, which has put a slight dent in the leaf, but I'll live with that. It's already got a gouge out of it. Which means the actual blooms are upside down now because it twisted inside the sheath. So that may reduce their longevity. We shall have to wait and see. We've got Cattleya buds up there coming on. There are others around somewhere in amongst that lot, but there are some more buds coming. Cattleya buds, I mean. That's that. We've got the Laelia buds up there, 4 spikes, heading for the roof. Those won't be too far away. And we've got these buds on one of Jeff's plants up there, silhouetted against the roof. There won't be any dendrobium blooms apart from these. This Latoria type has some spikes starting in a couple of places. Strange thing on this plant, one of the latest growths just dropped its 2 leaves. I haven't got a clue why, but it did. The other new growths seem okay. Well, sort of. Yeah. Doesn't look as happy as it once did. But again, we've got the cold of winter, which it's having to put up with. And when you see things like this on a plant that's a warm grower, that could be cold damage. Just literally the temperatures at night. Oh, fragrance on this is absolutely stunning. It really is. And it's almost overpowering. Even though there's other fragrances in here, I mean, we've got this is a slightly different one. The cinnamon twinkle has got a different fragrance to the others. The others tend to be just basic vanilla, whereas this has got a chocolate in it. So it's like vanilla chocolate, almost heading towards Sherry Baby, but not that chocolate. But yeah, so that's got a different sort of fragrance to this one, for instance, although that's, strictly speaking, not a twinkle. It's been crossed back with Sotoanum. And over here, the red fragrance is starting to get buds opening and virtually all over the place. So I need to get that down somewhere where we can see it. And I think the tiny twinkle is going to be opening very soon. Those buds are getting... they're swelling up nicely now. They don't change colour because the blooms on that one are white. So the buds don't get, the colour tinge that the other types do. So we'll have those to come. The yellow one, or ones, I think both of these are yellow over here, this little piece and this little piece. They're starting to swell now, but they're probably going to open long after the others have finished. It does seem strange that with the same 2 parents you can get yellow, orange, almost red, deep pink, white, you know, it's the same two parents all the time. It is fun, isn't it? And I just wanted to tell you, I've been watching somebody else's video. Jeff, I'm sorry, memory. Well, it was early morning when I watched that. And he's had an elaboration on the naming of orchids and the way it works. And basically, I think it's the it's the nurseries and the sellers that need to listen to that rather than us. But at the end of the day, I'm going to change the way I do when I name orchids. When I do pop-ups in my videos of an orchid name, it's fundamentally wrong. It was just a way I adapted that differentiates between species and hybrids. Now, I've always put the genus name in upright text, and then if it's a species, the actual species name in italics. Well, strictly speaking, it should all be in italics if it's a species, apart from the capital letter on the front of the genus. And then the genus should still be in italics, even if it's a hybrid. It's just that the hybrid then is in upright text. So I've been putting it in the wrong way round, because when I first started putting those pop-ups on, I wanted to differentiate, and that's the way I adopted. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it, quite honestly. I mean, I know how it should be because of the publication I do for the Orchid Society, which has to be right. So I basically know how to do it. It's just the bother factor. So yeah, I'll be getting the pop-ups correct from now on, because it's misleading for people who see it, because, you know, people can copy things. So I'm not attempting to handwrite italics for my labels, but I've got a label maker coming. And if the label maker can do italics, then my labels will be correct. I was just going to say, unlike some of the nurseries, but see, now that one has written it in italics when it's a hybrid. That's fundamentally wrong. The only thing it's got right is the capital letters, because it's a hybrid. And on my labels, you won't ever see an abbreviation. I just do not agree with them. You know, if you know what the genus is, then write it, as far as I'm concerned. Do it properly. Like that. That is an incorrect label. The spectabile should not have a capital letter on it. Yeah? And that's handwriting. So you can't expect handwriting to differentiate between normal font and italics. I don't think anybody goes to that extent. But, I mean, that's as it should be. That's a species. Yeah? Dendrobium with a capital D and Alexandrae with a lowercase. And the whole lot should be in italics, correctly, strictly speaking. But it isn't. Oh, I've just noticed my sheriff there. Oh, I've forgotten again. The oncidium thing there with the yellow blooms has gone. That's the second spike just gone over now, so that's out of bloom now. So we might think about getting that out of the pot soon. But not now. Okay, so that's, you know, I mean, the naming standards of orchids always sounds complicated, but actually it's not. There are some oddities in there which you won't come across very often. You know, so normally speaking, the whole lot should be in italics unless it's a hybrid. So if you're talking species, capital letter for the genus, and everything else is lowercase in italics. Simple as that. If it's not a species, if it's a hybrid, the genus should be in italics, and then the hybrid name shouldn't be. And the individual words of the hybrid should have a capital letter. Yeah? The only difference on the end of that is you do get varieties sometimes. You know, you'll get a clonal name on the end. There's one over here. So I'm just trying to find things. Yeah, so that's that's an oddity, because that's actually a species with a clonal name. So again, the top bit, Brassia vericosa, should all be in italics. Lowercase for vericosa, and sea breeze, capital letters, upright text, and enclosed in single quotes. That's how you put a variety name in, clonal name. On the end, you put it in single quotes, and in normal text, upright text with capital letters on individual words. And that will be how it will be registered. So if you want to find out how these things are written properly, just have a look in the RHS register. There'll be enough of flipping examples in there. What was the other exception that Jeff mentioned? Oh yeah, hybrids that naturally occur in the wild and have been proven to do so should be in lowercase, the actual species name, and they should have an X in front of them to indicate that it's classed as a species, but it isn't really. It's a hybrid, but it naturally occurs in the wild. And you won't come across many of those. I mean, I've got one. No, I have not. I've got two. This Miltonia up here is a naturally occurring hybrid, and you can see it on the label around the back there. That's a typical label in my place. I will get that sorted when my label maker arrives. I'm going to have great fun doing that. And I've got various coloured cartridges, so I'm going to invent a colour coding so that I can recognise types of plants at a distance just by the colour without reading it. So I'll have, you know, sort of one colour for all the Cattleya types, Cattleya Alliance, one type for all the Oncidium Alliance. Probably just have white ones for things I've only got one of. And you know, but that was the idea. I've got the colours there, just as well use them so that I could recognise things from a distance. It's not that I've got that many plants. I recognise most of them because of where I put them. I remember where they go. So if all these plants, if the orchid fairies came and took all these plants and dumped them on the lounge floor, I could probably put every single one back where it came from, because I pick them up and water them and put them back where they came from. And I change them occasionally to get better light or move away from bright lights, so they do get moved occasionally. But most things have got their place, and that's where they flipping stay. Not the buds are doing on that nobly. What are they? Can I see them from here? I'm not getting the plant out, it's right at the back. Can't really get at it, can I? No. Oh, they're coming on. They're pushing away from the cane. So, yeah. That one has been re-included in the feeding programme. So at the moment, my mounts, they get 2 flushes and a feed. And the resting type dendrobiums only get water on one of the flushes. And I'm feeding every 3 days, 4 days maybe, occasionally, but that sort of frequency. So there are, well, a lot of the mounts get done every time, every 3 days, every 3 or 4 days. They get done every time and they get feed 1 in 3. That's the way I'm working with plants that are effectively in growth. Yeah. So, and then the resting type, the nobiles and the true winter resters and things like that, they get picked up on one of the flushes and get a drop of water. They don't get a soaking, they get some. Nowhere near as much. So that's what I'm doing with the mounts at the moment. The only things that are liable to suffer are things like the Tolumnias, because they ought to be watered a bit more frequently, really. But in these lower temperatures, they don't seem to be suffering at all. See that? I'm just about to water now. I've got my Vander bucket warming up down there. And I mean, that is absolutely bone dry. But it'll hydrate fine when I water it. And if you have a look at the new growth, it's not showing any signs of shriveling or desiccation. So they're doing okay. I mean, you have to bear in mind my humidity's high in here. So it's not like they're in dry air or anything like that. I'm currently 88% humidity, so it's quite high in here all the time. Enough that I've got water streaming down the glass over there. That's just how it is this winter. That's just how it is. It's just a lot of that is really, it's not so much with the humidity in here, it's the difference in the temperature between here and outside. That's what's doing it. So it's not so bad. But yeah, water everywhere. That's why I'm probably getting away with not watering quite so often. It's just literally the humidity's nice and high. Plants are taking in moisture from the air. They don't get much feed exactly that way, but they do get the moisture and the other bits that they take in through the leaves that works with the photosynthesis and produces the sugars, which is some of their food. We always think that our nutrients go in through the roots and plant only gets what we give it. And just remember that photosynthesis is doing its thing as well through the light. And when you have a look at all the elements that orchids need, and you get the list up, the most important one's not on the list. It's water. It's the most important element you can give to an orchid. And quite honestly, it'll live for quite a long time with just that and some light. So, I think we worry too much about feeding. Well, I've reduced mine right down, frequency and amount. Last year, my Vanda bucket was going around 350 to 400 parts per million. This year, it got cut down to about 200. But of course, once I put the feed in the bucket, the Vandas get dunked in the bucket. They get fed every time. Yeah. So what I do when the water's new, when it's just been filled up with RO unit, is they get a good flush. They get a good soaking in clean water and a good slosh around to sort of rinse the roots off and make sure there's no residual stuff left on the roots. That gives them a good sort of clean off. And then I put the feed in for the subsequent waterings. And the Vanda water bucket gets changed, the Vanda bucket water gets changed when I run out of RO water, which this time of year is quite a long gap. So my feed level that I'm just about to put in there, I'm just about to do that. Oh, look at that, labels. You're not on the plants yet, but that's better than normal. At least I've done the labels. And when my label maker comes, I'll probably have to scrap them. That's going to be a gentle process. I'm not going to attempt to do a label for every plant in one go. I'll get typitis, typing too much. Anyway, so the feed level this time of year, Vanda's not growing much, cool temperatures, short days, it's probably going to be about 120, maybe 150. And I know with the feed that I've got, if I do that at about that TDS level, I don't even need to check the pH because it'll be about 6.5, maybe 6.4, but thereabouts, it'll be fine. So I don't even bother checking it. It's only when the when the TDS level gets higher, once I get up above 200, the pH starts to drop, and it doesn't seem to drop in a calculatable sort of amount. It just drops. So I do check it then and bump it up again if it's dropped too low. But this time of year, I'm feeding at such low levels that the pH is normally too high, if anything, and then it depends where it's going. I'm gradually getting rid of the moss. It's not all gone yet, but the moss drops the pH in the pot dramatically. I'm hoping that the cocoa husk does not, but that's yet to be checked. Something to check that well would be perhaps the one of the Miltoniopsis, to do an experiment on that, because they've all got the cocoa husk in and some charcoal and sponge rock, so it might pay to measure a runoff on one of those at some point in the future, because they're the ones that have been in the cocoa husk the longest. Yeah, so it's had time to settle down. It's had an occasional very light feed and mainly flushed since that point when it was first used. So it might be worth doing a check down the line. Not today, other stuff to do today. So there we go. That's just a sort of update on things to come, what's going on, and yeah, I hope Ken's okay. The work and effort that he put into sorting out Jeff's stuff was taking a toll. I could see it. It was, he was starting to not know which way to turn next. It was getting to him. So hopefully he may still have the dealer to deal with, but that should be the last thing. That could have already happened. I don't know. It could be happening today. I don't know. I had my last visit, my last sort of thing, and I'm out of there now. So it's up to Ken to tidy it all up, get it all closed down and everything. But if the dealer comes, that they're used to packing up huge quantities of orchids in the shortest space of time possible. If you think when one of those dealers goes to a show, how many plants are actually on show to sell, and often with a side display as well of the larger, more specimen type plants, that they're there for display, not for... It's a lot of plants, all packed up, loaded in a van, and I often go around the show trying to find my 4 plants that I put in, if I've got that many, and where the hell did I put my box, what staging did that go under, and by the time I pack my 4 plants up, the dealers are virtually gone. They are just so good at it, so well practiced. So hopefully that will be a... if it's who I think's going to get it, if that's what's going to happen, then he will probably have 1 and maybe 2 helpers, both proficient at packing and stacking. So I reckon they can clear the place in a pretty short space of time. We shall see. And then the dust can settle. And one day I'll get to Marius's place and have a look at the National Collection in all its glory. You know, there'll be some repotting done. Plants will have been cleaned up a bit. They'll be labelled properly in some shape or form. It may be a numbering system. I don't know. It's up to Marius. But I think the previous procedure was actually a number system. And he's got the list from National Heritage of all the plants that should be in the collection. We found out it's 3 years out of date. Oh, God. Which means some plants will have been lost and are on the list but can't be found because they're gone. And I'm sure Jeff will have added some along the way. So there's going to be dendrobiums that are not on the list and might not have a label. So I don't envy the task of getting that collection straight in an organised manner. But Marius said he's going to enjoy doing it. So that's the way to look at it. And one day it'll all be sorted. And in my opinion, the most important thing is that it was saved, kept together, and somebody who's willing to look after it will be looking after it. Not somebody who felt pressured into doing it because there was nobody else. There's a difference, you know. Anyway, that's it for today. Sunday chat tomorrow, probably. I haven't got a clue. As we get to the end of next week, obviously the videos will stop. I've got guests round for the Christmas period, daughter and eldest son for a bit, and I will just have a break, basically. I'm sure many other people will not only have a break from doing videos, they'll also have a break from watching them. So, yeah, let's all enjoy this holiday festive season as best we can, given the circumstances, but most importantly, as safe as we can. Just because you're allowed to do something doesn't mean you should. And just think about that when your old aunties and uncles and grandparents are being thought of. Oh, let's bundle round and see Granny. Yeah, well, think about it. Do you want to see her again next year? Think about it. Be safe and be sensible. We are all capable of being sensible if we choose to do so. So make your choices carefully. And see you tomorrow. Bye for now.